year 1998, in Venezuela. On a Sunday afternoon, police forces and television networks nationwide focused on the same individual, Héctor Duarte, an 18-year-old who attempted to rob a bakery but was apprehended by the municipal police during the act. Consequently, he confronted them, igniting a shootout in which Héctor was injured in the arm and leg. However, this did not deter the criminal. Throughout the ordeal, he was under the influence of a mysterious substance that distanced him from reality, increasing his capacity to harm the woman he held hostage. This compelled a sniper to intervene, leading to a tragic conclusion. In this video, we will explore the reality of this globally significant event. And to uncover what truly transpired, we must understand who the protagonists are and what became of their lives. On April 5, 1998, in Cuba, Miranda, Venezuela, it was an ordinary morning. For many devout Catholics, it was Palm Sunday. This is when Nancy Lopez, 44 years old, and known in her condominium for her gentle and peaceful demeanor, came into the picture. She was often called Dios te bendiga, God bless you, as she would bless everyone she met. As was customary, Nancy would go to church early on Sunday mornings before commencing her daily tasks. At 8 a.m., while preparing to leave, she recalled needing to pay her rent. Typically, Nancy would attend Mass first and then pay her condo fees, but this time, she chose to pay first so she could spend additional time at church. Unbeknownst to her, this decision would alter her life forever. Simultaneously in Cuba, Héctor Duarte Bahamonte, an 18-year-old, was attempting to rob a bakery with a firearm, seemingly under the influence of some substance that he likely took to muster the courage to persist in his mission. It was suspected that Héctor initiated this robbery in search of money for more drugs, but he did not anticipate being captured by the municipal police. Under the influence, he did not hesitate to confront them, sparking a shootout that left him with wounds in his arm and leg. In a panic, the criminal fled the scene, trying to escape. However, due to his injuries, he could not go far, eventually finding a nearby condominium where he sought refuge from the police, leaving a bloody trail behind. Héctor entered the elevator of one of the buildings, where he took several individuals hostage, including a woman who was descending the stairs after paying her rent. Nancy did not comprehend the situation. Upon encountering Héctor, he instructed her to return to the administration area she had just left after paying the rent. Remaining calm, she urged others to comply with the orders of the armed man. She noticed Héctor's injuries and understood the gravity of the situation. The atmosphere was tense for everyone, particularly for Héctor, who attempted to project confidence and control. However, at one point, he dropped his firearm while exiting the elevator. Due to its poor condition, it discharged accidentally, injuring two individuals, a lady, the condominium president, and her 9-year-old son. Despite the dire circumstances, Nancy assisted Héctor with his wounds, helping him change his shirt, clean his injuries, and find comfort, exemplifying her inherent kindness. After tending to the offender's wounds, Héctor proceeded to tie up Nancy and the other hostages, holding them for 2 to 3 hours while negotiating with the police, who demanded that he release the hostages unharmed and surrender. However, surrender was not an option for Héctor. As the situation worsened, the police requested additional reinforcements from the Miranda State Police, who began to surround the area along with the media arriving on the scene. Amidst this audience, Héctor was surrounded not just by the authorities, but by those witnessing the unfolding events. In a desperate act, he opted to release the family he was holding and chose Nancy as his sole primary hostage. In this manner, they began to descend the building together. According to Nancy, as they walked down, she noticed that on each floor, policemen stood guard like angels protecting her. She perceived them this way because, in such a tense moment, where professionals can often err, nothing occurred, and no one acted impulsively. Héctor chose to exit through the front door of the building, located right in front of a nearby liquor store, hoping the police would provide him with a vehicle to facilitate his escape to Caracas without being pursued. Throughout the ordeal, Héctor kept his revolver aimed at Nancy's head, clearly indicating through his demeanor and words that he had nothing to lose, demonstrating the seriousness of his threats. This situation drew not only the attention of nearby residents, but also many others from the area, eager to witness the unfolding events. Additionally, the kidnapping began to be broadcast live on a national television channel named Venevisión. In light of this situation, the judicial police that had arrived commenced setting up a perimeter in the area, asking the public to cooperate by maintaining absolute silence and avoiding further disturbances. They also coordinated with specialists to initiate negotiations with Héctor Duarte in exchange for Nancy's life, as he was not inclined to surrender easily. Among the onlookers was Ivan Simonovis, leader of the Special Actions Brigade. This Venezuelan unit had trained him in tactics and weaponry influenced by various U.S. police forces and the GSG-9, Germany's Special Operations Unit. The officers involved in this operation faced immense pressure to uphold the nation's trust, particularly since the event was being aired on national television. In recent years, police had made numerous errors that resulted in the deaths of innocent civilians, as seen in the San Román tragedy and the Terrazas del Avila case. If you'd like me to create a video discussing these events, please comment below and subscribe to the channel to ensure you don't miss any upcoming videos. With this pressure, the team began deploying under Simonovis's directives, positioning 4 snipers in strategic locations in front of a building. Earlier that day, Milagros, Nancy's daughter, had heard the gunshots and the commotion of people attempting to escape the chaos at the bakery. She quickly peeked out of her bedroom window and, upon seeing the unfolding events, frantically began searching for her mother, fearful something might have happened to her. Milagros hurried to the elevator, and when the doors opened, she was confronted by a shocking sight: a significant amount of blood inside. Her fear intensified when she found no sign of her mother and began asking everyone in the building if they had seen Dios te bendiga, the nickname by which Nancy was mainly known. After receiving no responses, she continued her search all the way downstairs, eventually reaching the street. It was here she discovered that Héctor had taken her mother hostage, holding her under his arm, wounded, with blood soaking her clothes and the rosary she wore. Witnessing this heartbreaking scene, Milagros instinctively dashed out, pleading with the municipal police to let her pass because her mother was in danger. Héctor had a gun pointed at her head, and one of the municipal officers quickly apprehended her from behind, informing her that she couldn't enter the restricted area as it could escalate the situation. Despite their efforts to calm her, Milagros's distress led them to place her in a type of patrol vehicle called the Cage. Inside, she desperately banged on the vehicle, overwhelmed with anxiety and hysteria at the sight of her mother in danger. She remained there from 2:30 p.m. until 7 p.m., experiencing a true nightmare. Imagine enduring 4.5 hours without the ability to act, fully aware that your mother was in such a grave situation. The police needed everything to remain calm, allowing specialists to maintain control and execute the negotiation plan with the kidnapper, thereby preventing further harm to individuals and safeguarding Nancy's life. As the hours wore on, Héctor continued to issue death threats against Nancy, yet she maintained her composure throughout the kidnapping, even conversing with him at times. During the prolonged ordeal, Nancy inquired about his behavior and what he needed. She even went so far as to provide him with advice on returning to school, offering her assistance to help him get back on track for a more structured life. It was astonishing how Nancy's maternal instincts emerged despite the precarious situation. Throughout their conversations, Nancy realized that Héctor was a very young boy who, although he had a mother, lacked the fundamental principles she should have instilled in him, and his father was practically non-existent in his life. During this time, Héctor began to communicate with her more, eventually reaching a level of trust, where he offered her a drink to quench her thirst during the kidnapping, which Nancy politely declined, putting his needs before her own. Meanwhile, the police persistently tried to negotiate with Héctor, urging him to surrender peacefully. Even Nancy herself begged him not to kill her, claiming she was pregnant, something that was untrue, but she thought it might assist in her escape. Despite this, Héctor repeatedly turned down all negotiation efforts, and as time passed, it became increasingly evident that this event might end tragically. Analysts discussed 3 potential scenarios that could unfold. The first was that Héctor might relent, lower the gun, and release Nancy, a highly improbable outcome. The second possibility was that the revolver could discharge at any moment, leading to utter chaos, a reality Héctor was clearly aware of, despite being under the influence. The third scenario was that one of the snipers could take the shot at Héctor, resolving the situation. But This posed a substantial risk, as the bullet could strike Nancy or miss entirely, prompting Héctor to retaliate against anyone nearby. As time went on, a cameraman named Michelet Castellanos, who was in the crowd, observed through his lens something the officers could not see from their vantage point. He grew increasingly concerned about Héctor's demeanor and expressions. The young man appeared to be in a psychotic state, laughing frequently and seemingly accepting his fate. Most alarming were the unusual movements he made with the hand holding the gun. Michelet communicated this detail to the commissioners, allowing them to see through the camera that Héctor's true intention was to prepare to shoot Nancy, not merely as a threat, but as an event that was likely to happen. The revolver in Héctor's possession required 2 actions to fire, but he had it set to 1 action, with the hammer cocked. This indicated that with minimal pressure on the trigger, a fatal shot could be fired directly into Mrs. Nancy's head. The commissioners began discussing this detail, analyzing it through a series of codes. Victor Hambris, the individual behind the radio negotiations, concluded that Héctor was psychologically disconnected, suggesting that seeking a resolution through dialogue was a viable option. It was time to take decisive action. The suspicions that Héctor was under the influence of a substance keeping him detached from reality were confirmed when he requested the officers to provide a phone to call his mother, a request that was granted. Following this, he began to speak incoherently, and his aggressive body language indicated he was on the verge of committing an outrageous act. This behavior persisted throughout the 5 hours of negotiations with the police, and by this point, Nancy's composure was diminishing. She kept praying silently, asking God for a favorable outcome, fully aware that her life was no longer in her control. After nearly 7 hours since the bakery attempted robbery, Ivan Simonovas issued the order to end the negotiations. It was Efren Villafranca, a special sniper stationed in a strategic position, who was told to stay vigilant. Efren was the most trusted sniper of the brigade, which is why he was placed in that key location, to observe the target more effectively than the other shooters. His task was now to bring the situation to a close. By this point, retreat was not an option. Héctor was displaying psychotic behavior, responding repetitively, smiling constantly, and asserting that if they killed him, he would kill Mrs. Nancy first. Let's observe the events captured by Mr. Michelet Castellanos.
Continuamos en Cuba. Hace pocos momentos actuó la Brigada de Acciones Especiales. Iván, ¿qué fue lo que pasó?
Un solo disparo, ya está listo.
Un éxito la situación.
Un solo disparo, ya está listo. La ambulancia para trasladarlo. Está bien, se acabó. Sí, pero no me toques violento, estoy trabajando. Está bien. Mantente lejos, vamos, mantente lejos.
La mujer, vente. En esta ambulancia proceden a llevar a la señora que estaba como rehén. Afortunadamente está bien, ella quedó ilesa.
Do you want to play poker fully anonymous from anywhere in the world? Whether you're in the USA, Canada, China, or beyond, join Free Roll Hunter on Club GG Poker. Enjoy fast deposits and withdrawals in crypto. Dive into a variety of games including NL Hold'em, PLO5, Omaha, and more. Take advantage of our great Rakeback program to boost your earnings. Don't miss our daily tournaments for a chance to win big. Click the link in the pinned comments and description to start playing today.
They kill me, I kill the lady. I am working, yes, and we continue. Moments later, the Special Actions Brigade took action. Ivan, one shot. He is ready. Success. The operation moved forward. In this ambulance, they began transporting the woman who had been taken hostage. Thankfully, she was unharmed. The operation was a success for the BAE. Efrain, with a single shot, neutralized Hector, who, although he was rushed to an ambulance, ultimately lost his life. Mrs. Nancy also received immediate medical attention, and until this point, everyone is familiar with the story. However, what transpired afterward received little coverage from mainstream media. The operation was considered successful, and Ivan Simonovas was celebrated as a hero nationwide for being the public face behind it. Yet, in 2004, he was accused and arrested by the Hugo Chavez government for the Silencio massacre, an event where 19 people lost their lives while protesting against the failed coup d'etat aimed at President Chavez in 2002. Reports from various national and international media suggested that the trial had numerous irregularities. Many believed Simonovas should not have received the maximum sentence of 30 years. He was consistently viewed as a political prisoner, and many advocated for his release, deeming his arrest unjust. Nevertheless, in 2019, Simonovas managed to escape from house arrest, where he had been confined since 2014, and he now lives freely in the United States. On a different note, journalist Luis Olavarrieta conducted the sole media interview with Mrs. Nancy following the events, where she revealed details that few were aware of. She stated that after the sniper's shot, it took her some time to regain her senses because all she heard was the sound of the shot, without comprehending what had transpired. She had already surrendered her life to God, her mind was clear, and she felt at peace, prepared for anything. An act of extraordinary courage, especially considering she maintained her composure and returned to work the next day as if nothing had happened. However, her employer and family urged her to take a break. This, however, was not possible, as Hector's father began to harass her and her family, threatening to kill them for what had happened to his son. This behavior shed light on the poor parental example Hector had. If the man was searching for someone to blame, Mrs. Nancy was the last person he could hold accountable. Nonetheless, this left her frightened and without options, necessitating a temporary move. As if this were an unending nightmare, her home would soon be invaded by an unknown woman who began using it as a base for her illegal activities. Over the following months, Nancy and her daughters fought to reclaim their home until they finally succeeded. Now, she continues to live her life in the city of Kua, where everyone remembers the tragic chapter she endured over 25 years ago. I'm sorry to say this video concludes here. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button and write a comment. What are your thoughts about this case?